Hello, and welcome back to VHS Era. After a month off while I was premiering the first two episodes of my new podcast, Everyone's a Critic, and to celebrate VHS Era being back, we are going to take on a classic that now has a prequel that is up for a few Oscars. Maybe it's already won by the time this comes out. Maybe it doesn't win. We'll just have to wait and see. But I am, of course, talking about The Wizard of Oz. And joining me is Stephen Presley. Thank you for coming on, Stephen.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Stephen, can you tell the viewer a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun. It's a fun classic to talk about. Yeah, I have a, platform myself called Thunderpop TV and create content for that over at places like Instagram and YouTube. You can find my videos over there. I have a regular residency on this JB and Sandy show here in my town in Austin, Texas, that you can find every Friday morning on iHeartRadio under the Austin's 80 station, 103.1.
So, Stephen, now most people grew up with The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with The Wizard of Oz?
Absolutely. It was a regular once at least once a year tradition. So I when I was growing up, it was still on television on network TV, and we didn't have cable for a long time. In fact, my parents didn't get cable until I was probably in my I was almost out of high school. So it was like almost too late for me when my parents finally, got their first cable subscription. We did have a VCR. We did get into VHS and later DVD. The video store became a big thing for us, early on. But yeah, Wizard of Oz was on television for a long time for me when I was a kid. As a regular yearly tradition, we would watch it on television. It was the CBS television network.
Yeah, I don't think CBS airs it anymore. It
Oh,
still airs on television to this day. Now
yeah.
it's like TNT,
Mhm.
TBS, the Turner networks that air it, all like year in, year out.
Yeah.
But that being said, of course, did you watch The Wizard of Oz just on TV or did you watch it on VHS as well?
Later, but I was already an adult by that time before I started watching, rented, on a, hard copy version of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of VHSs of The Wizard of Oz. I think it was the 1989 one, which started the infamous rumor of the Hanging Munchkin, because I think some asshole out there edited in a Hanging Munchkin in
Mhm.
that VHS. But we're only going to be looking at two of the VHS releases. Now, originally, The Wizard of Oz was an MGM film,
Yeah.
but in the 90s, Ted Turner bought out much of MGM's library.
Yeah.
So, and one of the films they bought out was The Wizard of Oz. So we are going to be looking at the last ever VHS for The Wizard of Oz that was released by MGM. And then we are going to look at the first ever VHS for The Wizard of Oz that came out just 3 years after the last VHS for The Wizard of Oz from MGM, because the last time MGM released a VHS for The Wizard of Oz was in 1996.
Mhm.
And then once Warner's got the rights, they first re-released the film in theaters, and then they re-released it on VHS in 1999, and we're going to look at that. But first, we will look at the last ever MGM VHS for The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. MGM UA invites kids of all ages to a world of imagination and adventure,
How perfectly splendid.
filled with unforgettable characters and plenty of laughs along the way.
Chitty chitty bang bang, chitty chitty bang bang, we love you.
It's a journey that will transport your whole family to magical worlds.
Won't you take me with you?
Why, of course I will.
If it's funny, if it's thrilling, if there's music,
Look how we get along together.
if there's magic, if it's touching,
Charlie, I love you.
if it's timeless,
There's no place like home.
it must be MGM UA Family Entertainment.
Okay, so it starts off with a fairly clever ad. Hey, do you like The Wizard of Oz? That's a family movie.
Mhm.
You'll probably also like these other family movies from The Wizard of Oz. I mean, honestly, I've seen at least a couple of those.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd say they're anywhere close to the level of The Wizard of Oz. And some are like, are popular in their own right, but it's still not like The Wizard of Oz popular. Um, but you know what? It's a cute, fun little ad. It's like, look, here's everything that you'll enjoy with your whole family. It's fun, it's whimsical, it's enchanting, it gets the job done. Again, no one really believes, I don't know, Getting Even with Dad or The Pebble and the Penguin is as good as The Wizard of Oz, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's almost, I mean, I'll go, you were kind. I'll go a little further. I think it's an insult to put The Wizard of Oz in that group with those movies. Not to say that those were bad offerings, but I think, Wizard of Oz for me is one of the first great IPs in pop culture. You look at all the great IPs over a period of 60 years. You've got Star Wars, Star Trek. You go into superheroes and you got Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I mean, Wizard of Oz was the first of that for me of those great IPs that just carry on for forever with new content.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but on the other hand, it could be worse. At least they didn't include Mac and Me amongst those movies.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, Mac and Me is also an MGM movie for anyone who didn't know. So at least the ad isn't implying that Mac and Me is as good as The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take The Pebble and the Penguin is as good as The Wizard of Oz over Mac and Me is as good as The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but then again, The Wizard of Oz didn't have Jennifer Aniston in the background, so that's one thing Mac and Me has over it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something that's so true. You do have one. I mean, one of the more fascinating things of the Wizard of Oz is who was already in the movie that had to be removed from the movie. Buddy Epson, Beverly Hillbillies, was the original Tin Man. Well, I'm sure a lot of people may be already aware of this, but he had to leave because of the original silver paint they used. The makeup was toxic. It was causing him health problems. He had to be run to emergency, and so they ended up having to replace him.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, there were so many horror stories
Yeah.
that for about the making of there was God, I'm so aghast thinking about them. I can't even talk straight. There were so many horror stories
Yeah.
about the making of The Wizard of Oz. It's like, why do we even need stuff like the Hanging Munchkin or the
Mhm.
Munchkins were rapists and party animals when there's actual true things that
Yeah.
happened during the production of the movie that are worth talking about? I don't get
Real
it.
stuff is just as horrifying, like you said, all on its own.
Yeah, but let's do what I'm good at, which is when we get too deep and tragic, let's go to the next ad.
Once upon a time, you discovered the magic of movies,
It's me,
touching stories
Lassie.
that captured your heart, exciting tales that took you on wild adventures, and heroes
Welcome to Sherwood, my lady.
that swept you off your feet. Now, share with your family a collection of movies that will thrill and delight them. MGM UA Family Treasures.
Don't drop it. What do you know about girls?
Where is that good little boy that used to live here?
So nice being engaged.
Treasure the fun and adventure with your whole family today. MGM UA Family Treasures.
So there's a few more, at least IP-based properties like Robin Hood in there, Flipper, and there's just some that aren't really IPs, but at least are things I kind of recognize, like Yours, Mine, and Ours. Again, it's just another fine. Hey, remember all these nostalgic movies ad? Not really much to talk about. Just, I guess it's kind of interesting that pretty much every movie there, well, the last ad, it was like a whole range of family films from different decades. This one kind of kept more within the span of like the 40s to the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. Lassie in there also was one. When I was a kid, I remember being really a favorite of mine was Lassie. I'll say one thing from an editor standpoint, I thought it was a really well cut trailer. And it made me, like, even today on this particular day in the calendar, want to binge watch that stuff.
Yeah. So like again, it's like both of these are pretty like just well edited. Look at the magic of the movies types of nostalgia trailers. And again, thank God, neither of them have Mac and Me in it. So,
Again, yes. Thank you. Bravo.
um,
MGM.
yes, but anyway, that is it for the 1996 release. I guess MGM knew they didn't have much longer with this film, so this classic, so they didn't put too much on the VHS. But now we'll look at Warner's first ever VHS
Mhm.
and see what that one's like.
Shiloh, the beagle the whole world fell in love with, is back in Shiloh 2.
Shiloh's like a part of my family, and I'd do anything to make sure he doesn't get hurt.
Judd still thinks the dog is his.
No, sir. Shiloh's mine, and Jed knows it.
Man's got a right to protect his property.
Tell your kid I want my dog back.
I want you as far away from Judd Travis you can get.
We had a deal, Shiloh. Why can't he just let it go?
No! You're not going after my dog!
I want to stop all this fighting.
You can't expect Judd to act in a friendly way. It's not his nature.
Experience the magic of the year's most heartwarming family film.
Do you think a person can ever change? Once they're mean, are they mean forever?
A little kindness can change man and beast.
You're mine, for as long as you live. I promise you that.
You'll never forget the courage when a boy risks everything to turn an enemy into a friend. Shiloh 2, now available from Warner Home Video.
So I know you gotta like do anything you can to sell the movie, but Shiloh was the beagle the world fell in love with. Was the first Shiloh that popular of a movie? I've heard of it. I've never seen it. But again, I know you have to do anything you can to sell the movie. It's just kind of weird they're making it sound like it was this huge box office hit, and it's like I don't think it was. Um, it looks like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, definitely now and probably even then. It's funny because the movies that it was back in the late 90s or mid to
Yeah.
late 90s,
Mhm.
movies were much faster to get greenlit back then, and there was a larger volume of releases in theatrical. So there were probably some movies that slipped a lot of things that slipped through the cracks that wouldn't get through today in getting into a theater.
Yeah, but I just mean it just looks like meh. It's like it's very much if it was on TV and I was a kid and I had nothing better to do, I'd
Right.
probably sit through it, but it's not like
Yeah.
something I'd like seek out to watch.
Did they make another one? Was it just two? Was there a third?
Feel like there was a third one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that there is like that is just a nothing trailer for what I'm guessing is a nothing movie. Not
Mhm.
my type of movie, honestly.
Yeah, and the trend in cute puppy or the story of the love of a dog movie have shifted considerably because now the trend seems to be adults and their love of their dog rather than kids and their love of the dog in
Yeah,
recent movies.
you know, it's weird. I love dogs. I'm the person who like greets every dog on the street, and yet I can't stand dog movies. Or I won't say I can't stand them. They just look very obnoxious from the trailers
Yeah.
usually. Like, I don't know, like they look like they're trying too hard to be cute most of the time.
Sappy music just to make sure, if nothing else, make sure to add the sappy music.
Yeah. And like, the stuff with like the dog's purpose, dog's way home, dog's whatever. They also add in those like voiceovers with actors trying to sound as cute as possible. And it's like, I just can't get into it.
Coming this fall, mysteries as old as mankind, witchcraft, ghosts, talking dogs.
Run? Where?
Coming to video fall 1999. It's the all-new, fully animated movie, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
Speaking of dogs,
Yeah. Now you got me. I'm a lifetime Scooby-Doo fan.
yeah, that actually looks like a fun, Halloween film for kids, not too scary, but not too obnoxious either. It looks like a perfectly fine, fun Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah.
Again, like they're trying to sort of play it up a little bit like a horror movie, but it's obvious there's an undercurrent of silliness there, but not too much that it gets in the way. And I do know two things about that particular Scooby-Doo movie. It's the one with the Hex Girls, which is like one of the most iconic side supporting characters in Scooby-Doo in the fandom of Scooby-Doo, whatever you'd like to call it for many people. And it is the one where Tim Curry voices the villain.
Yeah. You got that alone right there is a selling point. If Scooby-Doo wasn't enough, that adds to it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, like the trailer, we watched the VHS opening for Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and the trailers were obnoxious.
Yeah.
So funnily enough, that the first decent trailer on this VHS ends up being for a Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready for another Scooby-Doo revitalization, whether it's live action or another animate. I would love it.
Look for this winter's coolest video.
When you play that, no matter where I am, I can hear it.
Sometimes a promise can take on a life of its own.
I'm home.
Dad's the snowman.
No.
Michael Keaton is Jack Frost.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing.
A father who gets a second chance to be the world's coolest dad.
You know, sometimes it's good to have a big butt.
Jack Frost.
coming to video this November.
So this is a movie I remember watching a fair amount of times as a kid. It was like one of those movies that teachers would put on if they didn't feel like teaching.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those movies that even though I know I've seen it, I have not really much of an opinion about it other than I know that the snowman puppet was made by Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
Yeah.
And I knew that even as a kid because I used to actually love the Muppets as a kid. So I'd found that out when looking it up. Though unfortunately I can't say it's their best work. That is the only thing that really sticks out is how creepy the snowman looks.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I do know that George Clooney was originally supposed to be like the main character, and you can kind of tell that it's supposed to be a snowman more modeled after George Clooney than Michael Keaton.
Oh, wow. So that may have impacted things too. Batman replacing Batman.
That's true.
That's also interesting. I have a feeling too, Keaton, who was not known for doing movies like this that were more geared towards being like kind of kids focused movies up to this point in his career. This was around the time I think his son would have been the right age probably to watch this type of movie. And his son now an adult. He probably was like kind of like open to doing a movie like this more around the time his son was that age.
Yeah. Well, that and he was in like good movies around the late 90s. Like I love Jackie Brown, and he was also in Out of Sight, of course. But it's like his star did kind of cool off by that point. Like he was also in Multiplicity, so while it is a little more kid aimed than most of his other movies around that time, it was sort of more the kinds of movies he was doing, just broad comedies with fantastical premises.
Yeah.
Again, though, when it comes to the trailer, again, looking past the snowman, it looks fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. The snowman was the weak point, the visual of that. And surprisingly, like you said, since it was coming from Henson's, team, but that could have also been, because of the situation where they had to pivot and switch it out, from Clooney to Keaton, and then they maybe didn't quite make all the adjustments they needed to make it, work. But also during that, that was around the time of the Star Wars prequels, and Hollywood was really going heavy on the CGI animation that was not quite as good as it was later. And so there were a lot of, bad visuals in some of those late 90s movies.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, the technology just wasn't there yet. There's also it also depends on the film and what was happening behind production, of course. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why some CGI hasn't held up from the late 90s. But again, looking past that snowman just looks like something you'd see. The rest of the trailer just looks like something you'd see in between commercials on Nickelodeon or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
2 nights ago, a SATCOM radar detected an unidentified object entering Earth's atmosphere.
This is the greatest discovery since television or something.
Warner Brothers Family Entertainment presents
Banzai!
The story of a young boy and a giant from another world.
Now, why would you tell your mom about a giant robot?
Mom! A little privacy! Sorry.
Who became a hero on this one.
We gotta hide!
Go to Cougar!
Cougar, no!
There's a kid in his head!
You can fly? You can
Iron Giant. Coming soon to DVD and video cassette.
Been a good pattern lately. One trailer, followed by a good trailer, followed by an trailer, now followed by a pretty good trailer. Yeah, like Iron Giant, great movie. That commercial does a fairly good job at recreating its charms and what sort of makes it work emotionally. And we were even talking earlier. I mean, we were even talking last time, about how how a lot of films from the late 90s have weak CGI. Here's one where the CGI was actually pretty good. Yeah, like the CGI Iron Giant actually holds up, like it's not realistic, but he blends in well because he's in an animated movie.
Works really well visually, and I love the music. It was a great memories from that for me.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, like again, thank God. And it's funny, last time when we were watching the Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island VHS, we were like, oh, we hope we get an Iron Giant trailer because again, like those trailers that we were watching were terrible, but we finally got an Iron Giant trailer. I hope you're watching this, Jen.
Hey, what's up? What's all the noise?
The Warner girl and the Warner boys.
They're gathered around in the village square.
They say there's something way out there. Something weird and something strange.
In a tale that captures your imagination.
What is that?
Haven't you heard?
There's no such thing. It's too absurd.
Could well be, but we just don't know.
We'll soon find out because we're going to go
To the wishing star, to the wishing star. And something weird and so bizarre it fell to earth from way afar.
They're on their way to the wishing star. I gotta get to the wishing star. Where do we really go so far? Out of my way, whoever you are!
Steven Spielberg presents The Animaniacs in their first full-length feature. Wacko's Wish, coming January 2000.
Maybe we should have kept this our little secret.
Yeah, I like Animaniacs. It's fun. That looks cute. I mean, I've seen that movie. Yeah, I remember it being pretty cute. Like, not their best thing ever, but I remember it being fairly fun. The trailer pretty much just focuses on the wishing star scene and not really anything else about the movie. Do kind of wish there was more of that humorous side of Animaniacs and not just just focusing entirely on the song, but it's like, but again, it's not like I'd watch that trailer and think, "Oh my God, they don't get Animaniacs at all. This just looks like a phoned-in cash grab." No, it still looks cute.
Yeah. In these movies, that like the Spielberg, the Animaniacs, the Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers, and Disney movies over the years have been great at introducing kids to art, because that's the first exposure to musicals, to musical theater, and so they get introduced to it by that way, and then it ends up creating a fan base for Broadway years later. So kudos to them for everything they've done over the years.
Yeah, actually, they've even like held concerts where, the voice actors from Animaniacs have like sang like Animaniacs songs. So yeah, again, it looks like a fairly fun little flick.
Beginning today, the family trip will never be the same. The Silhouette Premiere by Oldsmobile, the first minivan with an audio-video entertainment system built right in. Start enjoying the trip. The Silhouette Premiere, only from Oldsmobile.
I actually remember my uncle had like this minivan that had like that actually played movies, and we actually like watched it like back in the late 90s. So watching that commercial kind of sort of triggered memories of that. And I think that did a fairly good job at tying in like The Wizard of Oz with like old like family car cliches. Like you see like, are we there yet? put it back there, like interspersed with like the music of the Wicked Witch, and then like they use like Somewhere Over the Rainbow as like a symbol that, this minivan is like such a heavenly experience, which I thought was pretty clever.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the tie in there. And yeah, I think good commercial. Definitely.
Yeah. So now, after the show, there were three things. There was a behind the scenes special that was about 50 minutes long, but they also showed an old trailer for The Wizard of Oz from actually like 1949 and the infamous Jitterbug scene.
Oh, yes.
Now let us watch the old trailer.
Many, many miles east of nowhere lies the amazing land of Oz, a magnificent empire created in the mind of a man who wrote a great book about it. Like wildfire in the wheat field, the fabulous tale of the Wizard of Oz spread from town to city to nation to the entire world. Although the Wizard of Oz has captivated the children of 4 generations and fired the imaginations of those youthful adults who have never grown old, although 10 million copies of the book have reached eager hands and eager hearts, no one has dared the towering task of giving life and reality to the land of Oz and its people. Every delightful character of L. Frank Baum's classic is now reborn. Every glorious adventure has been recaptured and painted with a rainbow. The celebration in Munchkinland, the flying monkeys, the rescue of Dorothy, the castle of the witch, the palace of Oz, and Dorothy's strange journey to the Emerald City to find the wonderful Wizard of Oz himself.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is the Wiz of the Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Interesting that they say that they recreated everything from the books because that's not entirely true. There's a lot that the Wizard of Oz left out from the books, which is understandable because again, it's still just one movie. They can only put in so much, but it's just kind of interesting they said that. Other than that, it's kind of it's an okay trailer, but again, this is just kind of how 40s trailers were. They weren't as exciting as, trailers try to be nowadays. They were very much slower and again, like the narrator might sound bored and disinterested, but again, that's just how 40s movie trailer narrators usually were. Again, it's like it may not seem like the most magical trailer now, but that was just kind of the standard at the time.
Yeah. There are definitely some visual moments that are stunning, of course. How could there not be? I mean, for the nostalgia aspect for Wizard of Oz fandom, it's going to be always intriguing to watch those old trailers like that. Even the subtle things you're talking about, like from the book to the movie. I mean, even, well, not so subtle things, but like the changing of color of the slippers that were silver in the book that end up being red in the movie because they wanted to take advantage of the Technicolor advancements. The red.
Yeah. But again, it's like it's just kind of an old trailer. It's interesting to see like a trailer sort of promoting the film when it was starting to be seen as a classic because this was actually for a re-release. But it is really just like even though the movie itself is timeless, the trailer is pretty much a relic of its time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even more so now than it would have been 20 years ago. But yeah, it's for the pacing and everything is just, it's unbelievable how patient the pacing was.
Yes.
That's to be kind.
Who's that hiding in the treetops? It's that rascal, the jitterbug. Should you catch him buzzing round you, keep away from the jitterbug. The bats and the bees and the breeze in the trees have a terrible, horrible buzz. But the bats and the bees and the breeze in the trees couldn't do what the jitterbug does. So be careful of that rascal. Keep away from
the jitterbug. Oh, the jitter. Oh, the bug. Oh, the jitter. In the twitter. In the throw. All the critters got to be dancing on 1,000 toes. Ah, she blows.
So this might be an unpopular opinion, because a lot of people like love this song and wish it stayed in the movie. I think they made the right call cutting it.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. I'm right there with you. I don't know what the overall opinion is, but I agree.
yeah. I mean, look, I think it's kind of cool just to see like the choreography and seeing the puppeteers manning the trees. Um, Unfortunately, like they had filmed the scene, but they could only really find like the rehearsal, which is why,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it like the presentation looks like that.
Yeah.
But like I'm just thinking like it doesn't really make sense within the context of the story.
Yeah.
Why is Dorothy the one singing about how dangerous the jitterbug is? She's supposed to be the audience POV. She's not supposed to know anything about Oz.
Mm-hmm.
So why is she the one singing about this creature like she's warning them like she has some sort of knowledge about them? I know again that Judy Garland has the best voice, but narratively speaking, it doesn't make sense. And
That's
like
a great point. And that's even a different point than what people that are usually opposed are in agreement. That's a different point than people usually even go to, but that's a really smart view of it. I know the producers dropped it because they felt like the jitterbug was going to soon be outdated, and it would in due time, it would not feel like timeless, like the rest of the movie might feel to some people.
Yeah, and of course there's that. It is very much related to something that was popular in 1939. And also it just doesn't really fit the mood
Yeah.
like it's supposed to be like the jitterbug is a scary monster coming
Yeah.
to like destroy them, but they're like singing a happy song about it and dancing together.
It doesn't fit the tone of the rest of the film either. So in terms of the overall composition, it also stood out kind of awkwardly.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I wish the original footage had existed still, because I would love to see the extended cut just for the sake of seeing it.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen that as well. And I guess if nothing else, the footage confirmed that the Tin Man and the Lion are a couple.
Yeah. If nothing else, you get that from the raw footage.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was the end of the 99 VHS, and now it is time for stay through the previews or skip to the feature. For the 96 VHS, I would say there's only two. There's a nice kind of theme of just look at all this nostalgic stuff MGM has that's going through it. So I'd say stay through the feature. And you know what? I feel the 99 VHS is a little more inconsistent because and you don't get any like terrible trailers, but you just get, it's kind of a mix of just average trailers and good trailers, but it is kind of just more like, here's a bunch of kids movies we have coming out. Uh, Go see them. And then it just kind of sticks to the Wizard of Oz theming afterwards. But again, there's nothing really terrible, so I guess stay through the previews for that as well. But how about you? What are your judgments, Stephen?
I think overall, I mean, it's always interesting to go back and see some of these trailers. And that, I mean, for me, it's remarkable how much they've changed. What it made me really want, the more I going back and watching some of the old stuff, what it made me want more than anything else was to see what a new trailer now would look like for the Wizard of Oz. Like, when's the last time someone's put out a new trailer? Because VHS and DVD is more or less no more. I mean, there's still DVDs being released, but I'm curious, when was the last time a new cut of a Wizard of Oz trailer was put out, and what would that look like in 2025? I would be really curious of that.
Yeah,
have you seen anything?
No, I mean, again, unless you count Wicked, but
Yeah. The whole movie there, it's just proving the IP is still strong as ever with the success of Wicked.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Steven, do you have anything to plug?
Just everybody can find me on Instagram and YouTube at Thunderpop TV. And I always put new content up every week on both of those platforms. And yeah, follow me and join the community, and shoot me a message and say hi.
Okay. Well, next time we're going back to Everyone's a Critic as we look at Star Wars: The Last Jedi, but then afterwards we are looking at a more adult musical for VHS era as we go to the Moulin Rouge. We'll see you then.